tell you one thing, these vipines are sort of slightly fat, but they are really pigging out and growing out here in the real sunshine. Absolutely fat. But they're 2 years old. I would have said another year before breeding age. But the male, there is a definite male in here, has really been trying it on with the girls. So whether or not they're able to reproduce at this size, I'm not actually sure. But looking great. It's 15 degrees and a glimmer of sun, and they're still out basking. Recycled, leaking aquarium, bit of mesh, bit of wood, and a bit of security. I unscrewed a couple of screws to take the lid off. Don't forget, I have got the public on site. But this, I'm not going to go British in here. Trial run, something bigger. So we've just built this for, it's a trial really. If someone successfully keeping and overwintering, which isn't the plan for these Thai beauty snakes. So we're going to try the Vietnamese blue beauties in here. The difference is I can remove them to brumate or not at the end of the season. So they don't need to be in here permanently. They have got a foot of soil and a very deep all the way down hide box there. Got a large water area, which again, in an average vivarium in your house, you can't build something this big. We've got a log pile that's almost in permanent shade except the early morning, but no ventilation on the sides or the front, only the fully open roof. Now that may mean cutting a hole out here and putting a big mesh panel on there. So we've got a minimum thermometer in the shade, and we'll keep an eye on that and see how it goes. The weather's warm, but it's by no means midsummer. So what can you achieve here? Well, full UV or not, depending on what the snake would like. Far better lighting than you can provide indoors. The sun just blows everything else into the weeds. But what it has got is various places to cool down. And what it has got is a sun that's going around this way and disappearing behind the wall by 5 o'clock in the evening. So there's no sun on this from about 5 onwards. So in the midsummer, it only has a certain window as the sun comes around, gets full sun in the morning, and then it gradually goes into more and more shade. Just completely different. These guys are in a, I don't know, 4 foot by 3 foot high by 2.5 foot wide or deep enclosure. Something completely different here. So all 4 go in here, all 4 live together. And I'm actually going to try a snake that I've been trying, don't panic, but I've been cohabiting a species of snake with these just to make sure there's no problems feeding and otherwise. And that's a 7 foot bull snake, which I'm actually going to put in here and see how the temperatures and the snakes fare. Really a complete test run, a trial run, to see what we can achieve with outdoor enclosures for some of these cooler tropical rainforest type snakes and some of the Northern American snakes. Thriving, of course, here. It's in the shade because my jacket's chucked on top. But thriving in here are not only some young native grass snakes, but the whole colony of viperine snakes. Similar setup. This is fully glazed with a mesh roof. Oh, it's gone. Too much shade. And the idea as well is, of course, in natural sunlight with a soil substrate, rain's allowed to penetrate, you can have this fully planted. So we don't want to see this back wall. We do need some stouter branches, I think, especially if they're all on there. But we don't want to see this back wall. So we put a large pond in, that'll grow all the way around. You won't see any edges, look fantastic. Planted. The whole point is if they poo in there, it will be biological. ground cover's going to run around, but this whole background, it needs something in there. I'm thinking the sort of the very fine or the weedier bamboo, something that'll grow up quickly and cover the backdrop, or something that climbs up and we can have it climbing around. The whole point is naturalistic. You could put a backdrop on there, but if we're doing it outside, why not plant it? Have it looking much more natural. It is the way to go. If people can keep Thai beauty snakes in the UK all year round, ruminating underground with a 2-foot or a fully insulated hibernation or hibernaculum, the world's your oyster. For me, it will still mean removing these at the end of the season to make sure I can, well, either keep them awake or brumate them successfully. So much potential. And costless. It actually costs a few bits of wood. This was the most expensive. The clear perspex screen. Everything else is recycled. A fully recycled steel shed from my mate Bob. We've took the doors off and we've literally made a door. We've put a base in there. Stop all the soil coming out. We've drilled the base and meshed it, a bit of gravel, a little tiny bit of false bottom in one place so the water can drain through. We've got nest boxes, we've already said. Very little modification. We've modified the door. We've removed the roof and put a mesh in. Of course, the mesh can be covered in plastic if need be, or part covered. And we've fitted a door with some decent hinges, triple bolts, padlock, and so on, to stop anyone. This is for the public to see, so we've got to be a little bit careful. 2mm perspex. No way that's going to move anywhere. Decent ball bearing hinges, so the door doesn't drop too much, but massive cock up. All of the blooming holes, one of them had to split, so I've had to put a brace in and pin it either side past before it gets to any further. Weirdly, drill oversized holes for your screws, so there's a bit of movement. Use a penny washer then to stop it sort of pulling through, but I think the drill bit's about a 5mm bit. Weirdly, a slightly blunt drill bit does a better job, a little bit slower, but a better job, because as it breaks through the backside of the plastic, it tends not to suddenly bind and split. It almost, I guess, gradually melts its way through. Well, not melts its way, but it definitely, a slightly blunt bit definitely helps. So what have we got there? 6 foot plus high, nearly 8 foot wide, and around 3 foot deep enclosure. That in your house, well lit, would look magnificent, but for most of us, unless you've got one snake, for most of us, average peasants like me, you can't have 10 enclosures like that in your house without losing huge amounts of your house. Outside, doesn't matter, does it? Loads of room, even a modest garden, So we're going to see how these fare. We're going to watch the maximum and minimum. We had a 6.5 degrees Celsius night recently, even though it's nearly the end of May. A bit more branching coming across. Definitely more in the way of planting, but it's coming along. What we could have done actually was paint the woodwork on the back there, which isn't going to get painted now. Just a darker colour. Darker stuff normally blends in and vanishes more than a brighter outline. Outdoor enclosure for Vietnamese blue beauty snakes. And the good thing is I've got eggs running in the incubator from both females right now.